Here.
Justin,
Here.
Ratcliffe,
Here.
Fail,
Here.
Schultz,
Here.
and Williams.
Here. Thank you, Lisa. We have a quorum and the agenda was properly posted. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please find a flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on, then we have item 4 is public appearances, public's opportunity to speak on any subject. It is not a specific agenda item. If anybody would like to speak, we'd just like to have you share your name, your address, and then hold your comments to no more than 3 minutes so that if we do have multiple people that would like to speak, we get all those individuals in. So I will pause and open the floor to anyone from the public who would like to speak at this time.
John, I have a topic, I guess, or one topic that's 2 questions.
Related to, yeah, sure. You're a commission member, but
It's not on the agenda, so well, it is and it isn't on the agenda. It's process. So one, all right. Oh wait, am I good to go?
Yep.
Okay. So I hold open government, really in the highest regards, and so I did send a message to staff about that closed session, and looking for more information about it. I did get an email back. Thank you, Aaron. And what I was really looking for was a little bit of additional context as to why are we going into closed session, really from the public's view, as well as my view, is what are the things that we're doing to discuss. And I guess really sort of the what I'm looking for is, as an example, we have item 6 on the agenda. There's a topic says discuss and consider, and then the first letter from the staff is, hey, this is what we're going to talk about, and then a recommendation to approve with conditions or whatever it is. And so those are the sort of the things that I'm looking for. So staff did email me back. I still think that my opinion is that the agenda item needs a little more context around some of the things that we're talking about to the public. That being said, if you want to come back and comment, that's fine. And then the second topic is procedure. This will be my first experience through the Zoom, I think, with Planning Commission for going into a closed session. And I know the board members, I'm sure you have a little bit more experience in this. Clearly, I'm used to the in-person where we kind of put everybody into the hallway, close the doors, have a closed session, and then we reopen the meeting, and then the public is allowed to join. So just from a process perspective, how does that work in closed session for notifying the public that they can rejoin the meeting at a certain time, and we can continue to have that open government feel? So kind of 2 topics. One's sort of it was handled, but the other one is really that sort of process around that, and how does that work, mechanics work.
All right, so it sounds like you've already indicated the first one's addressed. So regarding the second one, we hold this particular Zoom open while this closed session is in a separate Zoom, is how we've handled it. Obviously, we've adapted the normal open meeting to this environment. I would certainly have either Rick weigh in on this because he's all over this because I saw him on there, or Matt regarding this topic. And then we can move on to anybody else in the public who would like to speak.
So do we have a link for that additional meeting, or is that coming when it's time for that session?
It comes when it's time for that session. You just grab it in your email. So yeah, it flows right through. And you're right, Alex. Like Melissa and I are familiar with this because of being on the board, but that's how it flows. So
good. It sounds like I figured you guys had it handled, but my first experience, I wanted to be ready for it. So that's what we get to. All right, thank you.
We'll make it painless. All right. Anybody else from the public have any comments? All right, then we will move on to Item 5 is discuss and consider the meeting minutes from our Plan Commission on December 9th. Any questions, comments regarding the meeting minutes?
I have one.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Under determination of a quorum, it has members present. It's really just some editorials. Lisa, again, you do a fantastic job trying to keep up with all of us. Kyle Broom and Don, and then it goes right. It was staff members present were so there's a line right there. I think Kyle and Don were not available for that meeting, and it's not quite clear in that one sentence. So that's the only thing I caught. I would make a motion to approve with editing the section 2 to reflect those present in the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries.
Aye.
Abstain, Don, or what?
Abstain, correct.
Yes, I thought so. It was just a little delayed on your on the Zoom, so thank you. Wanted to capture it. All right, moving on then. Item 6 is discuss and consider a proposed precise implementation plan from Kevin Metcalf for Highland Village, a 38-unit multi-family residential development located on lots 1 through 4 of CSM 12454, bounded by Court Crossing and County BB and Sandpiper Trail. So typically we would start with the developer. So I don't know if Kevin and representatives are on the line.
We are.
All right.
Are.
I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Sounds good. And Dwayne.
I'll share my screen. There we go.
Great. So most of you, I believe, are all familiar with this plan. I think, Don, you might have missed the last planning commission one I was at, but this is the 38-unit condo project called Highland Village Condos. As mentioned, it borders Cottage Grove Road on the south side, Court Crossing on the west, and Sandpiper on the east. Nothing's changed in terms of the overall layout that you're seeing here. This is the same image or representation that we've showed in the past. Again, we have townhouses that kind of bookend east-west on our project. The northern ones are 4 units, and the southern ones are 3 units, mainly due to the view triangle on the south lot. So we feel like it does a good job. It does a couple things for us. I think it allows obviously the townhouse style to be more representative to those side streets, which I think is important, but it also helps us pick up some grade, which we've talked about in the past, where we're grading from the south to the north, which kind of goes against the way the roads are, Court Crossing and Sandpiper actually rise as they go to the north. So it allows us to get some of that grading done, which I think has actually helped us out quite a bit. So really proud of the units that we put together. So we can just maybe skip to the next slide there. This is the grading plan. I think it's been revised since the last time we saw you, but very similar. This was part of, I think, the original packet. But some of the comments were to grade more of the water going to the north, and I think that's been accomplished with the new grading plan. Nothing really much more to discuss here. You can probably see it or hear about it in the staff notes. But that's one thing that we did address, where we are grading and flowing the water to the north swale that's between us and the northern duplexes that are across the back there. Somewhat of an upgraded landscape plan, very similar to what you've seen in the past as well here. We've met the requirements. And I think we were short maybe a couple trees last time. There were some notes of just making sure that the water is not impeded going along that northern swale. So we've had Ken Psyche design, just making sure that they're plantings. The plantings are in the appropriate spaces, not to hinder any water flow, and make sure that that swale is operating as designed, which we believe that it has. So this is now meeting the requirements that are set forth for landscaping. And you can see a majority of that, not a majority of it, but a lot of it is in that swale as a buffer between us and the duplexes on the north side, as well as lining each one of the buildings and the islands between units and garages as well. And then, again, a substantial amount of landscaping buffering us from the Cottage Grove. Unit layouts have predominantly stayed the same. We've added on the upper level additional storage, which we felt was important for the town, or pardon me, these flats. As we talked about before, and we had some discussion around it, but it's mainly some downsizing of the, that's the market we're going after. It could be as actually 2 young professionals that need 2 offices as well. So we just don't really know how this is going to play out, but it's a 3-bedroom flat. We added one change as we, on the upper level, as you get to the top of the steps, we've added an additional closet in that area, just as we felt as though storage is kind of paramount in some of these flats that we've done. And then the other thing here is that we're planning on adding a lower level basement, I think around 1,500 square feet in total, or 375 feet per unit. Dwayne, if you want to just kind of outline that on the lower level, It's not shown or represented here.
Be right within this area here, outside of the garage and underneath the plumbing.
So it's not gonna change the building envelope at all. We just, again, felt like maybe moving the utilities into the basement, as well as, there was a comment about, are we going to be using municipal trash and where are those being stored and things. And so to keep kind of everything in the garage and neat and tidy, we felt as though maybe putting basements in here would help us for, again, additional storage. Potentially moving the utilities down in that lower level, as well as expanding the depth of the garage to allow either different size vehicles or accommodate the things that we like to collect in our garages. Those are just a little bit of the enhancements we've done there. Townhouses, nothing. The lower level has changed here. Again, nothing changed on the overall flow or floor plan. Just the lower level basement. We have that additional room where the mechanicals are, so that's the garage that we're entering in. And we've added kind of that bonus space down there. We've just kind of opened it up rather than put any doors or, walling it off, creating a hallway. We just left it as an open space. So it could be storage, it could be a playroom, it could be an office. That also has a window that is on the one side that allows some natural light going into the basement, which I think is a plus as well. All right, next one. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Dwayne from Knappy and Bruce. He's the one that put together the overall materials. My overall comment is that we're mainly masonry materials. Even the siding is not a vinyl siding. It's more like of a hardy plank cement board, if I've got that right. And Dwayne can go into some of those details, but I think you'll find these finishes to be, in my opinion, an upgraded finish level from what you'll even see in the neighborhood. So I think from a material standpoint, a visual standpoint, where we're trying to be as much part of the neighborhood and this neighborhood feel as much as possible. But again, I'm really happy about the materials that we chose and knowing that they're certainly an upgraded material from what predominantly you see in the neighborhood. So it's going to be well represented.
Right. So again, the building architecture really hasn't changed since the GDP submittal. We did add some additional detail, and we've now elevated in your packet all of the 4 sides of the building, which it really is 4-sided architecture that looks the same from each of the different elevations. This is the flats, so the 4-bedroom flats viewed on the top along the main road. along the driveway, and then on the bottom from Highland Drive. We are grounding the building with a natural stone material, so it's not a cultured stone, it's an actual real stone material. We've picked a natural stone veneers. It's called a Hamilton, which is a Fond du Lac stone, and it has a lot of nice warmer buffs and grays, and starts to introduce some lavender or reddish tones as well. And then that would be capped by a cast stone material. And then we've used a couple different siding materials. We have switched it up on different buildings. So the outer two flat buildings would have this timber bark material as the main siding material. And then the middle two flats would have this gray slate material. All of them would then have the upper board and batten material be a cobblestone material, which is an off-white, a lighter color. We are using all 10, 12 roof pitches, and we would have an architectural grade asphalt shingle in a pewter gray, and this would actually be used on all of the buildings. And then the townhome buildings, these are bookending the site. Again, we'd have the same roof material, same roof pitches. And some of these materials we kept the same to kind of try to blend all of the buildings, but we have introduced some other colors to help differentiate them as well. So the cobblestone material would still be the upper material, board and batten material. And then gray slate is the same color that was in the middle fourplex units. But then we've introduced this nice country lane red to kind of add a little bit of a punch to the center part of the building. And then it would have the same stone material as well. One change to the elevations, like Kevin had mentioned, is we've now introduced a window into that bonus basement room. Other than that, the elevations are really, and the design's really the same as it was during the GDP portion.
So it didn't go into 100% of the detail that we did on the GDP. Just kind of spare you guys, if you want more details or have any questions, we're certainly here to answer anything. I know there was one comment about the schools and amount of kids, and I think at the time I might have been more thinking that there would be the markets that we're going after in townhouses, and talking with Stark, who's going to be the main realtor on this thing, is that the townhouses would be mostly young professionals, single first-time home buyers, things of that nature. So in discussion with the marketing staff, I know it was just one individual that had some concern there, I thought, but I just thought I would bring it back and address that. We do feel that that the marketing is probably not as more towards the townhouses for the single first-time home buyers, things of that nature. Where I think last time I spoke about potentially, a different market staff where you might have actually kids or going to the school district. But again, who really knows in this market? But that's the initial thought, that we probably would not have much impact on the school district. Just to address that issue. Am I here for any questions?
Any questions for Kevin Dwayne? Otherwise, we'll hold off on that and actually give, because staff has some information in here as well. We can turn it over to staff and then wrap it up with questions after that. So Aaron, do you want to start? And then we could get to, I think Kevin's on the line.
Thanks, John. As Kevin explained, Kevin and Dwayne, this is pretty similar to what we've seen before. I didn't have too many concerns about it at the GDP level. I think the only one was addressing those few extra landscaping points, which, as Kevin mentioned, has been addressed and resolved successfully. So as far as the precise implementation plan, which is agenda item number 6, recommend approval with conditions, and my conditions are that same list of exceptions that are kind of driving us to be a PUD as opposed to being in a standard zoning district. And then the final plat is a separate agenda item, so you'll consider that separately under agenda item number 7. Again, no real concerns with that. We'd recommend approval with conditions. The first one, again, just noting the new public road, Highland Drive, is narrower than a typical width, but in this setting and for this use, that seems to be acceptable. And then just one note, final plat's required to show the exact location and description of street lighting and lighting utility easements. That may be something developer's engineer is still working out, but they'll just have to put that on the final plat before it's recorded. And I think Kevin had a report as well.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, I basically agree with Aaron. I've got, seems like a few comments on here, but they're very, nothing too drastic on the final plat itself. There are basically just some rounding items that just to be cleaned up. So nothing that I wouldn't approve. So we also recommend approval of the final plat and recommend approval of the site plan, basically just pending working with us on a few items. On the site plan, there's just a couple utility things as far as where laterals come out of the sanitary sewer and a couple drainage things that we've seen on the plats, but those are all things we can work with them on moving forward to a construction document. There's a few comments on storm sewer, and it's basically got to do with overall sizing of the storm sewer system. But as Kevin mentioned, they did alter the drainage to get basically everything heading to the north as we requested. So, and I have also touched base with their engineer that they're working with for the civil, and he has seen these comments and he didn't really have any major concerns. He said he was going to wait till after the meeting here to address most of them. But in looking at him, he didn't have any concerns really either. So we'd recommend approval of both as well.
All right. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Kevin. Any questions for either staff or for Kevin or Dwayne from the commission?
I got a question, John.
Sure, Alex, go ahead.
I think it's the next drawing, the mechanical space. And then you mentioned moving that next one. Yeah, there you go. And you mentioned moving that into the basement. So I guess I didn't catch this before. The mechanical space is in the garage, listed shown here.
Right, it's off the garage, correct, currently.
Our original plan when we first came in was to not have basements and to do this at grade, basically. But as we met with our realtors and just understanding the potential of needing additional space, we talked a little bit about the garages, things of that nature. It comes at an extra expense. It actually is going to, we're going to have to then remove fill on the site as opposed to being able to use it on site. So, those are some of those considerations when we're pricing these out that, did we need fill? Do we not need fill, et cetera? And originally we just didn't feel like it was necessary. Now as talking to the marketers, we feel like it makes a lot of sense from a storage perspective. And then from there, we just decided to move the mechanicals down as well as give back some space to that garage. So to answer your question in short, yes, the mechanicals are currently in these designs in the garages, but the idea would be is to move them into a lower level basement that would be, if you can zoom in here, Dwayne, you can see the door leading to the top of the steps on the main level. You would say then there would be a group of steps going down into 375 square foot basement. And because it's in the core or the center of the units, we think, that will be good for plumbing stacks and things of that nature. So there might be some savings that we end up coming up with to offset the expense of doing a basement.
Okay, so what is, I guess the two questions around that was, so what's the plan for that? Is there's three objects in there. So is that a hot water heater, a water softener, and the furnace?
Correct.
Okay. And then I guess, are you moving them all down, so the decision's been made for every unit, they're all going in the basement? They're all going into an interior space? Because I guess the leading question, but you've already resolved it in most of these areas, is I don't know that it's, I'm not really, I admit I'm not originally from here. I did a lot of house hunting when I moved into the area, so many plus houses in 2 short weekends. I've never seen any mechanicals in a Wisconsin garage like this where it freezes. Typically, maybe Vegas or somewhere where, they don't have that cold. So I guess so they're all going to be protected in an interior space, or is there still some of these units that are going to have this, to potentially have this sitting outside without being in an interior space, without, how's it going to hold up to the Wisconsin weather?
Yeah, we've actually had those discussions when we knew that we were putting them in the garage. I mean, obviously you can cut in a ductwork of having heat distributed in that space, and unfortunately you've got a HVAC contractor on your board that can probably address it better than I can. But yeah, those discussion points were talked about. I mean, how would we insulate these rooms? How would we make sure that they weren't affected by the cold?
Yeah, because it's not that I'm not worried about the heater running. I'm worried about when the heater breaks.
Sure.
Right. That's the I'm worried about a power outage for some reason. Now, Cottage Grove has been a fantastic place for utility infrastructure. Frankly, living here, I've had one significant power outage. But it's the condition, it's the fault condition that I sort of think about. And
yeah, it's interesting now that you even brought up that side of it. I'm just recalling a friend of mine that builds houses out there, and his houses, he's actually built in the ability to add a generator to supplement in case there is a power outage. But the short is that we are creating the basements, and the purpose of those is to storage, but we would be moving the utilities down. I don't, Dwayne, unless you want to jump in here.
And just to clarify, that's for all the units, then it's all going downstairs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dwayne, you agree with that?
Yeah, we would plan to put all that stuff down in the basement.
That's all I had, John. Thanks.
Alex,
Yep.
Alex, I can add a little bit. There's a whole bunch of condos in the Great Dane area in Madison, around the Great Dane, that are basically a similar layout to this as far as the floor plans go, and the water heaters, softeners, and furnaces are basically laid out like this, and they are in an insulated room, and the doors are sealed, so everything is sealed combustion within there. And so in the event someone leaves the garage door open or whatever, those rooms are insulated and sealed up and basically protected from the elements.
Good. Thanks, Don. Thanks, everyone.
Kevin, I did have a question as far as assuming approval tonight from the Plan Commission and following on that to the board. What's the latest timeline for all these units?
So we're working right now. In fact, I just signed the marketing contracts to start getting going on some pre-sales where we'll be doing reservations because we can't get on the MLS yet without having condo docs. But assuming that goes well, we've got, I think, 30 days to 60 days is what I'm told from our engineers for additional permitting. And following that, we'd probably be starting, moving dirt in April, May. And we're hoping that the interest level is high enough that we just continue all the way through, which would be around a 12 to 13 month construction period. So we'd be done sometime in 2022, just before summer with the final units. Our first phase right now is going to be on the northwest side, that 4-unit townhouse that faces Cork, and then the flat that's next to it. So that's our first phase, along with the entire road and all the improvements and infrastructures that go along with that road. So first phase, again, is that townhouse northwest side, the flat next to it, and the entire road infrastructure and all, the utilities that are going into each site. And then from there, really it'll be, based on interest level of, how quickly we get reservations to contracts. But based on the interest level that's been out in Cottage Grove and from our market studies that we've done in terms of basically both ends of the spectrum, from new home buyers to, people that are downsizing and in between, that there's a lot of room in this price point and availability. So we feel like this will go relatively quickly. So I'm in short answer, I would tell you that we're hoping to get this done in 12 months, starting the construction sometime in April, May.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for commission members? All right. Is anybody interested in doing a motion on this then?
I would make a motion to recommend approval of the precise implementation plan from Kevin Metcalf for Highland Village, a 38-unit multifamily residential development located on lots 1 through 4 of CSM 12454, bounded by Court Crossing, County Trunk BB, and Sandpiper Trail, with the conditions set forth of Aaron's letter on January 5th and Kevin's letter from January 8th.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor then?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Anybody abstain? Motion carries. All right, then we move on to item 7. This is discuss and consider a proposed final plat from Kevin Metcalf for Highland Village, a 38-unit multifamily residential development on lots 1 through 4, CSM 12454, bounded by Court Crossing, County BB, and Sandpiper Trail. We already heard from staff on that. I don't know if, Kevin, you have anything to add as the developer or on this?
I do not.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the commission members? All right, if there aren't any, is there a motion on this then?
Yes, I will recommend approval of the final plat from Kevin Metcalf for Highland Village, a 38-unit multifamily residential development located on lots 1 through 4 of CSM 12454, bounded by Court Crossing, County Truck BB, and Sandpiper Trail, with the conditions set forth of Aaron's letter of January 5th and Kevin's letter on January 8th.
Second.
All right, motion and second then. Any further discussion from the commission? Having heard none, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. All right, thanks, Kevin and Wayne, for presenting again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, then we'll move on to discuss and consider item 8, discuss and consider requests from Laura's Heating and AC for the approval of site plan for amendment for 3,300 square foot building addition at 351 Progress Drive. Somebody on Moore's is on the line. Oh, there you are.
I mean, the existing over. Did you hear me on that?
You broke up there right at the beginning, Scott.
Scott Foley, I'm the contractor representing the owner.
Okay.
Warland.
Okay, Scott. Do you have anything to present to the commission?
Well, this Warland was one of the first ones in this business park, and is glad to see they're expanding. They need this 3,300 square feet for product. They're not really looking at adding additional employees. Continuing with the same company that supplied the existing building, and going out to 66 feet out within 6 inches of that storm sewer easement. Same height, same colors. One overhead door in the back. We will be cutting in between the two buildings for access. 2 man doors in the back for code for emergency exits. They do propose to leave that parking as the grass right now, and just getting a gravel spot into that door, because they do have a loading dock on the west end of the building that they bring their product in, and they'll continue to take that across to the other end of the building.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Comments from Aaron?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. As Scott mentioned, it basically matches the current building that's there. The only kind of minor concern I had, within the planned industrial district, there is a requirement to have 1/3 of the surface area approximately as brick or block, which they do have on the existing building, but it looks like on this addition, it was proposed to be a metal panel. But also, if you look at the existing building, there's a thick layer of shrubbery, so you can't really see what the material of the base is anyway. Our ordinance does make an exception that if the planning commission is amenable to it, you can substitute that kind of landscaping for the masonry. I think if it is landscaped to that same level where you can't really see what the base material is anyway, I would be okay with it being the metal panel. But that was the only condition I had.
All right, thanks, Aaron. Kevin from MSA, do you have input on this?
No, this one I was not forwarded. I think I just saw it in the meeting as well. So I didn't have anything on this one.
All right. Any questions or comments from commission members?
I move approval of a request from Waller's Heating and AC for approval of a site plan amendment for a 3,300 square foot building addition at 351 Progress Drive with conditions as set forth by staff.
I second.
All right. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Kyle. Any other questions or comments from commission members?
One question: how close does this get to the property line? This addition? Is it, Aaron? It's within ordinances, I guess. For the right word, wrong word.
There's an easement, Alex, on that easterly property line at 10 feet. We're within 6 inches of that easement.
Okay, sounds good. Yep, I see that now. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor then?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Oops. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Have a good night.
You too. All right. Next, I'll make the motion to go into closed session for the commission. And the motion is the closed session is to discuss a boundary agreement, negotiating positions, potential agreements involving the town of Cottage Grove and the city of Madison. The Village of Cottage Grove Board will enter a closed session. It should say commission should enter a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, parentheses 1, parentheses E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specific public business where of competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
All right, we'll take a pick in a second. Thanks, everybody. All right, all those in favor then? Or I'm sorry, we do a roll call on this. I should have known that. Silly me. Lisa?
Brinkmeyer,
Aye.
Broom,
Aye.
Dickinson,
Nay.
Ratcliffe,
Aye.
Sale,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye. All right, we'll go into closed session. Pop over to your email, and there should be a Zoom on that, and then we'll leave this open for the public.